Everybody, welcome back to KC Happy Hour, episode number 57. My name is Xander Clements here. Alongside me, Aaron Hackmeister. We got a handful of guests that'll be joining us here tonight. We wrapped up, obviously, the Stars Championship Series third round at New Jersey Motorsports Park over the weekend. That was pretty wild, which we're going to cover in a second. But, Aaron, let's go ahead and talk. We got a lot of racing coming up this week. Bring us through what we got for three different events so far that we know of here this weekend.
Yeah, so right now, obviously the Kart Chaser broadcast is going out to Joliet, Illinois for the our two Autobahn Kart Circuit for the final round of Route 66 Sprint Series. This is going to be a pretty big and important event, really, and it should be a lot of fun. It's going to be last year I heard it was a really good time, so it should be pretty good this year. And then, sorry, go ahead.
Keep on going. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And then we also have out in Texas the Lone Star Grand Prix out at Speedsportz Racing Park. This one we had Alan Rudolph on a couple weeks ago, I believe. I think it was only a couple weeks ago for talking about this. This looks like it's a super cool event. Hopefully we can get out to there in the future. Lone Star Grand Prix looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. And finally, we have the big event that I always hear about, Rock Island Grand Prix out in Davenport, Illinois. Not Davenport, Illinois. Rock Island. And this is one of the biggest races, one of the biggest street races that I hear about on a consistent basis. It's one of the first races I heard about when I started karting myself, and so I'm really excited to see how this goes. I wish I could make it. I really haven't been able to make it ever, unfortunately, but it looks like a really fun event. We'll talk a lot more about that later on in the show.
Yeah, so we have some big races across the country this week. A friend of the show, obviously, Christy Kendall in there. NOLA and Biloxi Series is also getting going for the regional championship. They're doing in Mississippi and in New Orleans. To touch a little more on the Lone Star Grand Prix this weekend, this is a race that's going to be kind of mimicking it has a similar vibe to or a format to the Miami Grand Nationals that'll be happening in about a month. It's got a lot of money on the line. It's got a unique format, different track layouts, and then throughout three main events for a Triple Crown main, which will be cool. Unfortunate part for both of those events is rain has been going through the Texas and Louisiana area like crazy. It is projected again for both of them for the coming weekend, so it's going to be a little bit wet over there. Hopefully a little bit better for the guys up in Joliet, Illinois for Route 66, which I think just went over 100 pre-entries or close to it when it closed Sunday night. So that one was already pushing 30 again for KA Senior and a quick turnaround for them. And then the USPKS Series, obviously, in a couple weeks. But let's go back, obviously, to New Jersey to bring us in another one that was at the event. Brandon Jarsakrak joins us. And Brandon, you grew up in the Northeast. You spent most of your time, the last half decade, chasing everywhere but racing up at Pittsburgh when the big series would come. Have you gone back to NJMP for any of the road tax races, or was this your first race back in a while too?
No, we were there last year for a road tax race. I think the road tax Stars and Stripes series had their finale there last year. So we were there once for that, and then I actually raced there last year. I filled in for somebody that broke their ribs on Saturday at the Gear Up F Series. So I raced Sunday, and track is definitely a lot rougher than I remember it when I first started racing there like 5 years ago, but it's still one of my favorite tracks to go to. The layout's awesome, and as probably most people saw this weekend, the racing, it's always close and it's really competitive.
So the racing was good. I think the track was good. And, the thing is that when any series goes to a racetrack that's a little bit out of the beaten path, not necessarily geographically, but just a track that's not a Go Promoterplex, Newcastle, etc., all the promoters look at what the entries for that track pulls because everyone can kind of estimate what they're going to have for a turnout. Star Series ended up, I think, around 140, which is obviously a drop off. That's going to happen naturally over the course of a season. It's going to happen also when you go away from places that have a lot of racers in the region, or at least racers not too far from the region. At Newcastle and at GoPro, they were 200 to 200 plus for the first 2 rounds of the season. Those are also 2 of the biggest clubs in the entire country. So you go up to New Jersey Motorsports Park with basically not a lot of racing up in that region, and to pull 140, I thought was still pretty solid. The timing's also awkward, which is something we talked about on last week's show leading into the event, about having an event so far away from everybody else right at the beginning of the school year. So the kids' classes, you think, would suffer a little bit more because it was either the first week or the second week for a lot of people. That kind of date would work better in the summer, as hot as it would be up in Jersey in the summer. And when technically this really was summer, versus right early into the fall, or another way to do it. But Brandon, the other half of the reason I'm bringing you on, so you were there last year. Did you have all the same hoops to jump through that everybody else did? We'll kind of touch on those a little bit through the show, because that's going to be the bigger story coming out of this weekend than anything else. Tent permits, all kinds of, no flip-flops around on the grid, which Tony Tesoro was about to walk to the grid with flip-flops, I think, and a cigarette and a beer at one point. And then, of course, the lightning siren. Was all that there a year ago when the J3 guys were putting on a road tax race there?
So, I mean, they've always been real strict about the flip-flops and the barrier situation and everything like that, with putting your feet on the barrier or sitting on the barrier. That's been like that since day one that place has opened. The lightning thing, I've never really dealt with it there. I know it's always there, but we've never been there where it stormed as much as it did this weekend, which, I mean, it didn't really storm that much this weekend. It's just the rule that they have. It was storming 10 miles away and we suffered because of it. But yeah, like I said, we never really struggled with that before. And then as far as like the fire permit goes with the fire marshal, I've never noticed it before, but that's my first time I've been there being a team owner. So I've never really dealt with it before, but the fire marshal was really nice. And Joe, during our team managers meeting, he took care of everything with the fire marshal, and it helped everyone out a lot. So it was all good pretty much.
Yeah, I think the number was pretty. I can't remember. Did you guys have to pay for your permits on your own, or did the series take care of that too?
No, the series took care of it.
It was a big bill they ended up having just for permits to get everyone's tent.
And apparently they were handing out fines, because if you didn't have fire extinguishers in your tent, they were getting people in trouble, and then they were handing out fines if you had a fire extinguisher but it was empty, which some people had, and it was just a whole nightmare.
Yeah, so that obviously is a deterrent for a lot of series coming in. I think the entry fees is a big thing for any promoter that looks at it, of people coming over to New Jersey Motorsports Park to put a race on there. Another thing, obviously, that's one of those states with weird fuel rules, where it's one of the states in the country where it's still, you can't pump your own gas. They have someone manned at the pumps. They also will only pump into red colored jugs. You can't bring a clear jug or a white fuel jug. They will pump it into a red jug, and then you would have to take that red jug, dump it into another one. So most people end up just buying red jugs in that state also. But the biggest thing with the Lightning, that's not an unheard of policy. And so what it was is the state has amusement park regulations that go down through the track. In fact, the siren that was going off that you could hear if you watched the broadcast, not even controlled by the facility. I thought for a minute maybe it was just someone up in the front office, but it's not. Someone controlled in the region that controls when they have to shut down and when they're allowed to kind of get back under operating again. It hurt everybody. They had a NASA Spec Miata race on one of their car tracks. They had the extreme experience with sports cars, high-performance sports car rentals on the other car track, and then obviously us on the go-kart track. But a typical policy is no different than a swimming pool for any go-kart track and any racetrack. NASCAR had the same deal with Daytona rain and weather, and has gone through that a bunch of times this year too. IndyCar, same thing. Some tracks are 5 miles, some tracks are 10, but anytime they see a lightning strike within 5 or 10 miles, they'll want to shut down, do a 30-minute clock, come back when that clock is over with no lightning strikes within it. Now, this one was weird because we'd have strikes, and then we get that all clear warning 10 minutes later. And the way the insurance goes, which is something that I'd love to have Joe Janowski on from NK to kind of explain that a little more. From my understanding, a loose understanding with all the general insurance policies is if it's not like, when you get your insurance coverage that there's a rule about lightning, just like there's a rule about letting someone go up in an early age group. It's basically if you say you have a rule and then you disregard that rule, then you get into trouble, and then you can kind of get, the policy backer to want to back out on you. But the track is from when I talked to Joe at the end of the weekend, the track's working on trying to maybe get an exemption or kind of like a responsibility or like fair use policy where they can override when needed, because where we had it on Sunday, Brandon, too, we were dry for like so much of that afternoon when we were under lightning delay, and it was just sitting 7 miles away, 6 miles away, 5 miles away. When it got to a mile or two away, I think that's fair. But we've even had races in Homestead and Orlando, and I'm sure you've had races growing up where there's storms like nearby, and then we kind of say, all right, they're not coming. We can get in,
Yeah, it was definitely one of the unfortunate things, because you could see on the radar that it was just like sitting over in the field across from us and like right on the other side of the airport, and it just wasn't coming near us, but we were still on delay for no reason at all. But I will say the one thing is the Stars crew, there was nothing they could do like the whole weekend, but they handled it the best they could. And I actually, not that I like that we were on delay most of the time, but it kind of played out good that only really 2 classes the whole weekend had to go out in wet weather conditions. Other than that, everything was pretty much dry.
Right. There was only they worked with the track. The track tried to work with them as much as possible, because those lightning delays initially, when it first started coming on Friday, we were set up with a tent right next to the track fence, but on the pit side. And we were told we were too close to the racetrack and they wanted to back us up and away. And then by the end of the weekend, not only was the track staff allowing a few Stars officials to get out there to do track drawing during the lightning delay, they made sure to let us get out there to get our camera equipment. So, even on the track itself, they have some weird policies with the facility, and that's going to happen when we go to somewhere bigger than a normal go-kart track, where we've got a country club there, we've got car tracks. There's going to be upper management, and there's going to be more people than just a go-kart track a karting fan and karting fanatic that's just the owner of a property. We're going to have a bigger business to deal with and some extra hoops to jump through. But the track did what they could by Sunday. The unfortunate part is, they're, in a way kind of competing to, or at least on the ticket to get the potential third and final date on the Stars season for next year. They're going back to GoPro. That's a no-brainer. Going back to Newcastle Motorsports Park, no-brainer. The Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati has been good to them over the years they've ran there, and they were the first series to kind of try that one out with Sean Bailiff and the TKG group last year. They're going and so to go back again there later this year in October, they're locked in to do it again. And, Sean and the Bailiff family and everyone at MCC, they've still got more that they're going to be expanding and working on plans wise to improve on that facility, which is cool. But that last date, could have gone to Jersey's way had this weekend gone good. The sad part is that even if the track gets the exemption to kind of work around the lightning, work with the series and, events they have a little bit better, even people listen to this podcast or stuff or call Stars and ask about it, getting shut out from that much track time. The series could be as good as it wants to be. They could put out as good promo as it wants to be, but the way the weekend went kind of blows the track's reputation, I'd say, for a couple of years. I mean, I don't know how your customers came out, Brandon, but you had a wide few. I'd imagine the consensus was like, we like the facility. We like coming here would have liked coming here, but this weekend kind of sucked for seat time, What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. I mean, all my customers were very understanding about the situation, how there was not really anything the series could do. But I mean, other than that, they were definitely frustrated with being on delay and not getting as much seat time. But like I said, they just kind of dealt with it and went along with it. Everyone said they really liked the track. The facility was really nice. It was just all the rules that and hoops we had to jump through were kind of frustrating. But all in all, I still think it's a really good track and facility. It's going to be hard for them to get the date back for next year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know, like, to me, and this is just speaking from the outside, but it's like the track could, the track's obviously dealing directly with Joe. They can make things right with Joe and Christian and with Stars and be good to them. But, you only get in this case, it was kind of like a one shot to kind of break back out and get more big owner kart races back in the region. And it's unfortunate both the way that the weekend went. And then I was talking with, obviously, Ryan Raffa and his father really well, because they run with you guys at a lot of bigger events too. There was a race up at OVRP and there was a race at Englishtown over the weekend, wasn't there? So the whole region had racing where a lot of the regional guys were split up, right?
Yeah, that was definitely the frustrating part, that they had I think it was even a doubleheader up at Oakland Valley for a club event. So there was a lot of our people that like race with me and Mike that decided to just stay there and race there, and then Englishtown had their local, quote unquote, local event, and I just drew a lot of people away from the series. And the only problem with the Star Series going to New Jersey is most of the stuff we have in Jersey is all 125cc, like tag or X30 or Rotax, and Stars doesn't offer that, which is completely fine. But it's just the general area of New Jersey is mostly all water cooled motors, and not a lot of people have 100cc as well. So that's, I think, kind of what drew not as many people from that region to go.
Well, that, and like we talked a little bit last week too with the show, right? Like where they're kind of debating of the 206 senior class hasn't gotten massive. It hasn't grown over the last couple of years where everything else has grown, but those classes are kind of hand in hand. And so like when you lose a 125 Masters guy, he might have a buddy that he pits with that's also running a shifter. And so you lose the shifter entry too, because you might think like just cut the fatty classes. And we talk about that at the national races also. But, if you cut out Masters, if you cut out micro, you might lose a team, because that team or shop or, group of buddies that pit together might have some guys in the bigger classes, but also might have some guys in classes you don't want to offer anymore. I think that's probably could have been part of it too, for the shifter numbers to be a little bit lighter. Because I think that was the thing that they were a little surprised by. The KA stuff's strong enough, they were going to pull decent, but the shifter numbers were lighter for sure.
Yeah, I was really surprised that there wasn't more shifters, because that's like the other thing. There's a lot of shifters in the Northeast region, and I thought for sure that would be the biggest shifter race, and it wound up being, I think, one of the smaller ones on the year for them.
Yeah, which again, hard to tell. Don't really know till you go there, but either way, it just the experience and how it went for everybody. Like you said, I think a lot of people thought a lot of the series. And I think there's still a really good positive look for the Stars crew. Like you said, they did everything they possibly could. I don't think anyone can knock them for it. The track's hands are obviously tied, which, not everyone, I think, knew how much the state is onto it versus the track policies. And some of it, some of the other little annoying things were by the track too, but they're just doing by the book, by the crazy New Jersey bylaws and all that stuff. Either way, it makes it tough for that date for next year. So I wanted to kind of segue that, at least for what we know, and to have a fun little segment here before the end of segment number one. We'll come back to the Stars schedule for 2023 with a guest that we have for there in the next segment. But in this segment, I wanted to go over dates for what we've got. And Brandon, you're in tune with this as well, but I don't want to put you in a place where you get too awkward about it. So let's go ahead and we'll break it down. What we've got and what we know versus what we don't know. Let's go back here really quickly. So first of all, for the winter. And so when I would say pro and national, we're talking your 125 shifter classes, the places where those are really, really strong. You could argue Stars, they like to kind of brand themselves as an independent. They don't want to be put on or pigeonholed into a regional or to a national. They like to think themselves somewhere in the middle. So they're not on this list of the major series. Challenge of the Americas out on the West Coast has announced their dates. The Rock Cup Winter Tour has announced their dates. They're trying to put enough gap, a 2-week gap between each of their races, so when they share Rock teams, they can go back and forth. But nobody of all the winter programs, even though we know exactly where we're going to, or almost exactly where we're going to be racing for the regular season next year, we don't know what the winter series looks like. So my guess is for where we're going to be at for the winter series, so I went ahead and filled them on in here. I think without a doubt, Homestead will obviously have a SCUSA date. I think there's a question and a small possibility SCUSA goes to Orlando in February, but I would bet more money that SCUSA would either go to PK or Homestead. And the reason why PK is tough, and we touched on this in the last show, is they've got a paintball field that would be the extra paddock space that is making a lot of money, more money than a national race would bring. So for them to do that, they would be sacrificing a lot, not out of the question, which is why I have it as an option in January. But that's probably the only way that the Rock Series doesn't go back to the Pompano Beach Isle Casino temporary circuit, because if SCUSA is going to be at Homestead, Rock won't be there, unfortunately, just for a variety of different reasons. Go then later on in the month, Challenge of the Americas goes normally between 4 different racetracks over in the Southwest. up until next year, which it sounds like they're going to have a fifth one that could be an option in the rotation. They always go to the two tracks in Arizona, Tucson and Phoenix. They can go to Cal Speed and they go to Sonoma Raceway in California. They usually alternate. One of the four goes off the schedule each year. This last year, Cal Speed was off the schedule. Sonoma was on. But K1 circuit is rumored to be, and we'll see on the regular season schedule, as the one fill-in date for the SCUSA Pro Tour. Their finale, I think, would be cool to go to the K1 circuit before the SCUSA guys go in, if it's going to be operational, if it's going to be ready to round off their season. And I think with how strong the numbers are at the clubs, you go to the strongest clubs and you make it a really big push. You go to Phoenix to kick off your season, which is always really, really good, even usually better than Tucson, as much as people like racing at Tucson. You axe that track for the season. You go to Sonoma, where the numbers are really good, in March. And then you go to K1 circuit in April. And again, when we look at the regular season is all filled in with the USPKS Series, Orlando, Speedsportz, then to Newcastle, then to MCC, then to GoPro. We don't know when the Miami Grands will be. We obviously know there'll be a Rock Vegas and a Supernats. We know there will not be a USPKS Vegas event. I think, again, and we drop this maybe it's K1 circuit that takes that June date. And if it does, if I'm challenging the Americas, if I'm Andy Seisman, I'd be looking to maybe see if we could get in there. But that's if that track opens up. Brandon, those are my picks for the season. What do you think? Am I off base? Am I way out there? Or do you think you got some better guesses?
I think we'll probably be doing the exact same thing we did last winter. Okay. That's kind of the normal theme of what we've been doing in karting the past, I don't know how many years. So I think SCUSA will go Homestead both times, one forward, one back, and then the Rock Winter Tour will go probably Pomp, then Pete, then Orlando, just like we did last year. As far as the Challenge of Americas, I don't know. That's they'll definitely do Phoenix and Sonoma, and then that third one will kind of be, it'll most likely be K1, just because I've heard that's from the people out there. It's a really cool track and facility already, and it's really close to being finished. So I don't see why someone wouldn't try and be the first one on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for where they're at, it makes a lot of sense. They could be, they could also, again, go somewhere different than Phoenix and Sonoma, but those are always the stronger ones. And you don't want to go California only. Otherwise, you'd go, Cal Speed, K1, and Sonoma. You want to give Arizona because you draw from Colorado and you draw from Texas for those guys. But that's what we think for those guys. For the Stars Series, they've got other options, which we'll talk about right after this commercial break. And we got some more stuff to talk about as well, including we'll be talking more Rock Island later on in the show. So stick with us. We'll be right back here on KC Happy Hour 57.
Kart Store USA is a kart parts supplier that racers and retailers can count on when they need reliable advice and service. We focus on servicing all racers with honesty and pride while maintaining customer satisfaction. We carry a full stock of Kart Republic and Tony Kart chassis, as well as Miami and Vortex Rock engines. We've also got a host of other parts available and in stock, such as products from Rev Performance Materials, Jecco Racing Seats, and more. We have a 100% satisfaction guarantee, and on top of that, if your order exceeds $200, shipping is on us. Check out all we have to offer today by visiting us online at kartstore-usa.com.
At New Gen Motorsport, we're committed to using our 10-plus years of experience and knowledge to help grow the sport of karting from the bottom up. Our goal is to make karting more accessible to the average person, lessening the financial burden of getting started, and making the learning curve as small as possible. Our passion is training and developing drivers, mechanics, and engineers to not only be the best they can be in karting, but also for careers in the much larger world of professional motorsports. A strong foundation makes building bigger easier. Let us be that foundation for your karting and motorsports career. Be part of the new generation of motorsport. Contact us today to schedule your test day, arrive and drive race event, or to inquire about how we can help get you started in your own new gen racing kart.
Don't settle for a national engine builder. Take care of yourself with an international one. SRP Engines is a global industry leader in engine services, specializing in engine formulas such as KZ, OK, OKJ, and Mini 60. SRP Engines is the engine of choice for Magic Kart USA and helped power North America's #1 ranked pro shifter driver AJ Myers to the 2021 SuperKarts USA Pro Tour National Championship. SRP Engines can also service any spec engine class of your choice, including Miami and Rock divisions. However, if you're looking for the absolute choice when it comes to KZ shifter engines, there is nobody better. For more information, contact Amar Sanada at srp-engines.com. KC Happy Hour is proudly presented by the Rock Sonoma Karting Championship, presented by Cameron Race Promotions, the most competitive Northern California karting series. Featuring a 2-day format with practice on Saturday and racing on Sunday, multiple track configurations, and a massive prize structure including tickets to Rock Vegas, race car test opportunities, and race rewards. Rock Sonoma is the training ground of multiple national karting champions each year and race car champions as well. Featuring a full Rock Cup USA class structure with each race weekend streamed live via YouTube, it's a series you cannot miss. For more info, check us out online at zanzarukarting.com.
All right, guys, welcome back here to KC Happy Hour, episode 57. So moving on and putting a nail in the tracks that the Stars Championship Series could go to. One of those tracks that we'll kind of come back to could be on the schedule is Pittsburgh International Race Complex. And while we have our good buddy of the show, Race Liberante, based up there, he's not the only guy in Pittsburgh. Dan Schlosser, thank you for joining us here tonight. And you have been one of the architects in helping bring club racing back to a track. You were a general manager there. You were, built a huge club, then went on, did a bunch of other stuff. The club kind of went away, and now you've been part of the resurgence that's not only brought 206 back, you got K back this year. So thanks for joining the show, and I wanted to give some love to you for doing such great work. So congratulations on all the success of helping so far.
Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it.
So let's go through to give everybody a little bit of background on the growth you guys have done. We have a lot of people that follow from all over the country, and obviously a lot of club and regional guys. So were you involved all the way back at getting that first 206 series to run in coordination with the rental carts a couple seasons ago, where it's like Saturday mornings or Tuesday nights, right?
Yeah, it was I had a little bit to do with that, not a ton. They actually, we met with them, and they asked for some ideas, what it would take to get the karting back to the way it used to be. And, we had a few ideas, but I could tell that, that they pretty much had their heart set on, limiting down the number of classes and, trying to just start over really at the beginning. And, I can't say I was fully on board at the beginning of having, 4-hour race days and only 4 classes. That took a little to buy into, but, it worked incredibly well. It took a while. It probably the first year or two, a little bit took hold, but it's really been the last 2 years when, I think they've, they're racers, the people that own the track, and they want to see that program succeed. And they really kind of put a different foot forward last year and, asked a few of us to get a little bit more involved. And, and I think the response has been phenomenal. We're borderline. I'm crossing my fingers that we can pull our first triple-digit club race in probably a decade this weekend, if the weather holds out and everything. So it's been a pretty incredible turnaround. And we're doing that in only 5 run groups too.
Right. And so with the K classes, is that just senior only? You guys have added K for the class? Or are you offering junior? Because I know it's a limited schedule, right? You guys have been 206 only up until this season. You got a bunch of promo codes or not promo codes, promotional packages with the KA motor to get it in on a limited schedule. Is it just senior for K, or is there junior too right now?
We're running both senior and junior. So it, Brandon and Eric were phenomenal to deal with, to get us kind of the launching point to kick it off. And we thought it's going to be a little light. So there's no reason we can't run 2 classes together with just a little bit of a separation. And the first weekend went incredibly well. We had, I think, 9 seniors and 7 juniors. And it was a good start. It certainly, I think 25 is the number we have to hit to maintain to look at the possibility of moving that into a 10 race schedule next year instead of just the 5 that we're doing this year. But I know, pre-registration for this weekend, we're already at 11 seniors. So, we've outpaced the last race, and there's still 3 or 4 people that ran the first race that haven't entered yet. So, I'm cautiously optimistic we'll be 20 plus in KA, and it'll really only be the third 2-cycle race there in 4 years.
Right. And it's been, a lot of hand holding and a lot of arrive and drives. You obviously have a rental program you're offering for the last couple K races. we'll come back to a little more on the growth, because part of the other part I wanted to bring you on the show, which you know about as well, is, everyone kind of comes in and has these bright ideas of putting new classes together. It takes a lot of work to get the right class to go and to understand, and you have to listen to the racers. You have to talk to a lot of people. We talked about the Stars Series not having the 125 classes up in the Northeast, not being a lot in the Northeast. Well, I'll take the heat on this one. The Northeast does have two programs up in there that have been kind of iffy. Basically, New York's Traveling Club Series, otherwise known as the F Series, that likes to label itself as the National Championship, had a big post that went viral earlier on this weekend. And so this post was about this brand new Harbor Freight motor. And as you can see here by the way that he's tried to quote it a little bit, which is awkwardly here. So I'm going to pull our banner off just so we can read that a little bit better. So he says, over the past few years, pro kart racing events have transitioned to new lower horsepower two-stroke engines. The idea from the onset was to lower the cost of racing, but apparently that goal has not been achieved. As for the pricing, the same or even more in some cases, with prices ranging from $2,800 to $3,600 for these options, should the sport be looking at truly low-cost engines. The Predator Ghost is available at Harbor Freight, $299. That kit add up to 10 engines for one two-stroke package. 10 engines for one two-stroke package. What are your thoughts on this option? Man, I was really hoping that I was going to be able to get through that without messing up, because Marco, I'll give him all this credit. He actually had some good grammar, so I can't knock him on that fully. I mean, it wasn't great, but it's decent for Marco. But there's a number of problems to break down with that. First, let's go. A KA is not $3,600 unless you buy it from Brandon, and Brandon says he went out and won a big race with it, and it's actually going to be $4,500. But he's probably talking on the X30 at $3,600, the KA at $2,800. The big thing of why the prices are where they're at for all those motors that are more than just $200 off the shelf is quality control. That is the biggest difference of why those $300 Predators very quickly on the dirt four-cycle scene turn into $2,000 motors and $2,500 motors. And we've seen this time and time again with the clone stuff over time. There's been some pushback on the four-cycle community, which we are as in tune with as I can be for not being at every single major four-cycle race, but Brandon is. And Dan, you're involved on the club level. So we wanted to talk about all the options and the real answer to that. The first answer is this Harbor Freight motor is in all ways not the answer unless someone were to come in and do a lot of changes to it. It's not a sealed motor, which means everything's to play for. There's not a rule set laid out for it. And the biggest issue is even if someone did seal that motor, even if they came in and did a rule set based off one specific engine and measured all the tolerances and did it all to it, the quality control is going to naturally put, if they went really tight on engine tolerances, stock motors illegal or way underpowered because they just kind of piece them together and send them out. Briggs and Stratton brags about the quality control that they have because they will throw out plenty of motors and plenty of parts that are not in the spec that they want it to be. The rule set has had less than a handful of rule changes in over a decade. You pay for that. The quality control, even though it's not necessarily a much more expensive motor, by throwing away motors is going to raise your costs, and that's why the classes are where they're at. So, Dan, you've been able to grow a 206 program over the last few years, especially after the pandemic. And the big narrative inside the paddock has been there's been so much demand on the Briggs side, and like everybody else, the supply chains have hit them hard. It's a struggle to get motors, but you guys have been able to get motors. Explain what you guys have gone through and how what your relationships are like, because I think a lot of people still think that it's impossible to get one, but that's not the case because you've got a lot of new people you put in it this year.
Yeah, I think it's just a lot of pre-planning and anticipating that you're going to have demand, and we're comfortable in that role. It's my partner Eric in this deal has given us the ability to make arrangements with the various engine builders that we work with, and we're constantly in the system. We know we have engines coming a month out or 2 months out, and we never have to order an engine and have somebody come in to buy a cart and we can't sell it to them because we don't have an engine. We always have one or two on the shelves. We always have one or two used. We always have something in the pipeline that we can promise accordingly. And I think that's really what it is. Karting, we've gotten to the point that recently where nobody stocks anything, so you just call Eric or call Kart Sport and and order a KA when you need it, or you call your engine builder and order it. So the model's changed a little bit in that regard, where I think if you go back to the way we all used to do it, and just anticipate and have things on the shelf, have things in the pipeline, it's not, we're not just in time inventory systems anymore. You have to be willing to commit to this stuff well in advance, and and eat it when it doesn't come. And I think something that's worked really well for us too is the three or four guys that we get engines from. We have a standing order with those guys. We'll take them whenever they're ready, but they also have we have a sidebar to that if they have somebody that needs that engine for an event that weekend, they can move us back in line. So we're able to help them take care of other club racers at other places. And in turn, I think that flexibility, has created, a trust level or whatever that, when we do need stuff now, we can get it. And, we take care of those builders. We don't make any money on engines. We make sure that builders get full retail for everything. If we send a customer to them, we make sure they're paying full retail. If we buy one for a customer, we pay full retail for it. Those guys have to stay in business, and they have to be a willing partner with us.
And Brandon, I mean, you're in a similar boat, on the local and regional level. You've got a number of clients over there that you work with, engine builders. I'm sure they've felt the heat, but from your end, have you guys struggled to get motors? It seems like you've still got such a budding tent down there that you've been able to put a lot of guys in seats too.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't not really struggled with motors this year. The biggest thing is like getting rebuilds, because there's so many races going on this year that getting rebuilds in time, our motor builders are just so busy they physically can't do all the motors they need to do. But like along the line that Dan said, as long as you just plan out ahead, like normally I try to contact my motor builder usually at least a month or two ahead of time, so they know what races we're going to and what motors we'll need for what races and the rentals we'll need. I mean, sometimes it's last minute because, as everyone knows, customers do commit last minute sometimes, but that's for another time. And but yeah, we don't really struggle as long as you plan ahead. It usually goes okay. And to the 206 side of the business, not that I know of that we've really struggled to get motors. I know John with Precision got pretty many recently, and I don't think he's struggling to get them all. I don't think there's really that much of a I don't know what you would say, but a lack of Briggs motors out there. And to the point of like what you said, paying for the quality control, that's why that motor is so cheap. I mean, by the time someone goes in and seals the motor and makes sure everything's good, you're going to wind up paying the same price for that motor as you do a 206. So, I mean, it doesn't really make much sense why we would change to that when there's nothing wrong with the 206 right now. There's no point in bringing another motor into the mix.
Absolutely. I mean, the pre-entries went up for the Cup Cars North America Grand Nationals, I think, within the last week. They're already pushing 200. The senior light class that you're in is 30 plus. I've said on the show a number of times, I kind of mixed feelings about having a number of big races with that motor, because you don't want those motors to kind of trickle their way down. You don't want an AVP 206 to end up racing against you at a club level. And when I say that, I just mean the guys that are the smartest are also the guys that get hired by the highest paying clients to make sure their motors are as fast as possible, as legal as possible. And then we end up with motors down at the bottom level. Now, there's less to do with the 206 in general. But point being proven, the numbers are really good across the board. And Dan, you're a prime example of seeing that, not, trying to let me rephrase a little bit. Karting's had the problem where it seems like every time we get momentum going, about 5 years gets in, we start going good, and then we want to kind of topple the pyramid and start back over again. Whether it's a class, whether it's a series, whatever the issue is, we find issues with what's going on, and we get annoyed with it. One little thing, and we restart. And I mean that's the same thing that we're seeing with SCUSA having some struggles right now. In comparison to US PKS, I wouldn't say struggles. The sport's grown and they haven't grown with it as much as PKS has. But the same racecraft issues we're seeing at schools are seeing at USPKS, people running into each other. It's not the series' fault. We can martyr the series and go race somewhere else because we think it's better. And well, now we're realizing at PKS, well, we're still killing each other, And the same thing on the 4-cycle side. You've been a big harper as well. Of like, we've got something good. There's no need to go out and try to do this crazy idea of just a new motor. And to the F Series credit, they don't get a whole lot of social media engagement like Brandon and you and I were talking before the show. This is probably the most engagement they have had on a post in 2 years. So credit to them. But there's no need to do this. We do this stuff all the time and we kill ourselves with the sport. Right, Dan?
Yeah, that's absolutely the truth. It's like I can't think of how many times we've, the reinvention of karting has happened, in the 20 years I've been in it, and it's unnecessary. Like you need to. I think the beauty of what the 206 does, and really the KA, is it's got us back to the first time in as long as I've been in the sport that most of the growth and everything is at the bottom level. It's at the bottom of the pyramid, the clubs and the entry level drivers, and starting to spread up into the regionals. And it's the kind of things that are that grow the sport as a whole. You don't grow the sport as a whole by dumping a whole bunch of money in the the top 2 or 3 series and and encouraging a lot of people to go and spend a ton of money there. It's nice that both Briggs and AMI have come up with packages that are good club things, and I don't think we should vary from these two things for the next decade. I'd like to just roll with it and see where we can actually go without unnecessary change that's really for the benefit of 1 or 2 people.
Yeah, I mean, Brandon, where you're at with the GoPro club scene, if these classes stay the same, we could get to the point that Moto has at that club where you've got amateur and semi-pro classes for 206 and for KA, because you and I joke about this before, but when you've got 40 KAs and a bunch of national kids come in and put new tires on Friday and put new tires on Saturday and run with a half decent motor, you can't expect some new kid, even though it's supposed to be his local club, to go and run even in the top 5 with those guys. And the same with some of the top guys that go run Briggs Senior. I mean, if it grows anymore, they're going to almost need to split on skill level for both classes, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, down at GoPro, we get consistently. This year, it's kind of lacked off a little bit towards, like, our last club race was definitely our smallest, but I think it goes back to the kids starting school, and there definitely wasn't as many people that, like, traveled to GoPro there. Still, even at that, we were still like 25 to 30 for both K Junior and K Senior. And then the Briggs fields, they always have at least 20, if not 30. And I definitely think if it gets any bigger, the splitting to semi-pro and pro would be kind of a good idea, but also people are attracted to big fields. So I don't see why not keeping the big fields and just make the people that are the semi-pro level work that much harder to get up to the pro level.
Yeah, which is it's such a tricky thing. And Dan, again, you've seen this on the national scene too. Aaron, you've seen this too. We've all seen it where, like, the most recent example is the SCUSA shifter classes. Even when stock Honda was still pretty big towards the end, you guys would win the S2 championship, the semi-pro shifter championship, and then quit, because then they'd spend the next year in the pro class running at the back, right? And there's a bunch of different ways to kind of format your licensing system if it's at the same event to incentivize guys to get out and not trophy chase the amateur stuff. I mean, we've seen it where both in karting, I've seen it in like Bandolero racing and Legends cars and quarter midgets, where maybe you just don't do points, you don't do a championship for the amateur class, they just get trophies on the day. You could put a little bit of money up, $200 in the pro class to get guys to keep going there. And then you could boot guys out of the amateur class as soon as they get a win or as soon as they get a top 3, like couple races, and they can move up and maybe have like a window, but that's something for a different show for sure. I think the ultimate point, which was put in really well by Christian Marsh here, is talking about, fragmentation is one of the most prominent detriments to the sport. 206 platforms is successful as a result of its price point, its parity, its uniformity across North America. It makes it easy for users new and old to understand, and I think that's right on the money. And in the same way that Rock is kind of just looming in the wings in the event the IAME stuff ever falls off, having the Tillotson around isn't necessarily a bad thing on that regard, just because if if the Briggs guys really started price gouging, there is like a competitor ready to kind of fill the void to a degree. They've still got some work they've been doing on the motor. They've been making a few changes over the course of the year. Having a full monopoly, I don't think is smart, but having at least a set and standard class while they're doing the right thing, I think is a good way to go about it. I think that's about as good as, a way to go. I mean, I know, Dan, you and I both see all these Tillotson posts come up as well, and that's not a bad package. It's not a Harbor Freight piece of junk, but it complicates things, right? It doesn't make things easy.
Yeah, it's it is a nice package. I've looked at it. It's close. I think my only concern with it is regionally, locally and regionally kind of deal. Anybody that's bringing it in is bringing it in just like Christian said. They're trying to get a corner on the market. They're willing to fragment the market that we're in for their own good. And unfortunately, the sport's getting better, but it's not that healthy that we can afford in a region to do two things almost the same. It's not like the Tillotson is that much better or that much faster than the 206, that, it's a drastically different package, and it's no KA. So, where does it fall in there? It's somewhere in there to steal some KA customers and to steal some 206 customers. And I don't know. To me, it just doesn't show great leadership to bring in a package like that right now in regions that are growing. Because it's not like it's not like we have too many 206 racers. It's not like we have too many KA racers in most markets. But it's at a nice pace. Maybe when those two, burst at the seams and we need something in between, maybe it's got a great fit. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's put pretty well. Brandon, you haven't been to a ton of races with that motor run, have you?
So I actually worked for Tillotson for 3, maybe 4 months, kind of an internship, seeing if I wanted to work for them full time when the Tillotson motor first came over here. So I did work with it for quite a long time. That was probably 2, maybe 3 revisions ago of the motor. But I was at the Buckeye race, had a class with it that I was at a couple months ago. And then when I was down at Orlando for SSKC, they had it there too, which, I mean, it just doesn't look like it's really gaining traction with people, that people really want to go into it. I kind of like their idea of making it more of a spec series where they did like the go-kart and everything, go-kart motor, kind of like what the Ignite did, but it's kind of just copying it. I think that would maybe have a little bit more success than just trying to try and be like the regular 206 that you can put it on any go-kart and go race. But I just think they tried to enter the market kind of at the wrong time, right when like karting kind of blew up in North America because of the whole coronavirus and everything. And then when people are trying to get back into racing, I think it's just there's too many directions to go, and we almost just need to have like one direction for everything, and it would just make, I think, karting more successful.
I think too, like the complaint that I have with like the RTX guys, the Rotax South distributors, which I don't even know how much involved they are in putting on events, because it's a non-American group. It's a South American group that's a Rotax importer down there. Is okay, you guys, maybe you want to pump some money in, you want to put some more seats in butts and seats, you want to grow the sport, whatever, you want to sell your own product. I think that's fine. I think the silliest thing is their lifestyle is they wanted to live in Miami, and so they go to Florida to base the Rotax southern half of the U.S. distributorship out of, where Homestead is owned by Miami. Orlando is unbelievably tight with Rock. At the time when they started, it was still even tighter ties. And Anderson had just kind of realigned with Miami, being one of the last groups to hold on to the Rotax package. So you go to a state with 3 to 4 tracks to play from. At the time, Ocala was still open, and 2 of the 4 are already blocked off because they're owned by your competitors. And the same thing with the Tillotson, right? If they went in with those spec go-karts and they go to some regions of the U.S. that have no support, that are super far from a number of shops or distributors or don't have a big club, and they come in with some big promo programs similar to like what Dan's got with some really cool pricing for KA to get guys in this year, then that sport grows. And you know, if those guys leave that region and they moved with a job to a different part of the country, or they want to run bigger races, I mean, it's not the end of the world if they have to go something different. Ideally, right, they go and run the same package in Idaho that we run down in Texas, that people run up in Washington State, that people run in New York. But, you know, it's not an idealistic state. There's going to be other people that need to be incentivized monetarily to promote the sport, right? Kart shops are salesmen for the sport, just like series have to listen to customers and so on. But the same thing with the Tillotson, right? And it's not going to a lot of places that have, you know, no support already. Atlanta Motorsports Park is right in the heart of the Southeast with Miami East and with a really big Briggs program. So having the class there isn't great. SSKC, it sticks. It's not really huge. You know, I know that they're based out of Anderson and Orlando, but still same thing, right? Like if Tillotson goes to, I don't know. I mean, Colorado could probably use a little more love, but I'd give a lot of credit to the Rotax guys and the J3 guys. They're going to tracks and regions where there really isn't a lot of Miami and there isn't a lot of rock, and they're putting on races and getting people in. And that's the right way, I think, to go about it. You know, I mean, you know, they're not just going in a random area. So that's the way I think that we can at least live with the fragmentation, is if it's in a part of the country that nobody else is playing. But if you really boil it down to like that club on a micro level, you've really only got room for one class at each speed group for sure. So I wanted to make sure that we touched on this for all of our viewers. I know we've got a lot of really in-depth karting people that follow us, along with the amazing expertise that we have on the show. Dan, again, thank you so much for joining us here for this segment.
That was fun.
I want to give you some love for the hard work you're doing. And, you know, who knows? I mean, the club growth you guys have had, all of a sudden Pittsburgh is more and more attractive for these bigger series to come back and for stars to maybe eye it up if people don't want to get lightning delays. I mean, I know that would be something cool. I'm sure that maybe you don't miss the traveling a lot, but would it be cool to get a big series up there again?
Definitely. You know, like the track is, especially for the people that haven't been there in the last few years. You know, Pitt was always a great track, but you know, the infrastructure at times wasn't up to snuff. And it's nothing like that now. Pitt should be it should get the biggest and the baddest events it has. There's nowhere around that has more paved paddock area. There's nowhere around with better viewing. Well, GoPro viewing is fantastic, but
yeah.
You know, the track, what the Stouts have done there recently is just the amount of money that they've put into the facility is outstanding. You know, and we can host anything. It doesn't matter if you want to bring in, you know, a SCUSA race, they could do it. USPKS could accommodate everybody for that. But I think a great step is for that open third stars date. I'd really, really, really like to see that be at Pitt. I think we'd show up and support it too. You know, I think that, you know, getting KA involved, we can get some more people back out there. And particularly if our 206, you know, if their 206 doesn't last and, you know, it takes us doing arrive and drive karts with our 206 locals to run KA there, you know, we're going to do our damnedest to, you know, plug 20, 30 entries into that field. If they can make that trip over here, be fantastic.
Well, you got me sold. That's a hell of a sales pitch for the racetrack, Dan. So again, we appreciate you coming on. We're going to go to commercial here in a little bit. We're going to let Brandon go ahead and get back to work as well. He's a busy man. When we come back, Mike Dittmer, one of the big names from Rock Island Grand Prix competition, will join us. Dan, thank you so much for joining the show. Brandon, thank you as well. We appreciate you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, again, guys, we'll be right back after this commercial break here. We'll answer a few more questions when we come back for anything that was sent in over the last two segments. And again, Mike Dittmer joins the show for the very first time as we start to give a little bit of love to one of the biggest and becoming historic, an American mainstay over 20-plus years for the Rock Island Grand Prix headed this weekend. And we wanted to talk to someone that really could help us explain what the vibe's like over there.
Kart Store US
Has steadily made progress since its inception in October 2021.
on top of servicing the Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana areas with products from Kart Chassis, Tillotson Karts and Engines, Miami, Briggs, Honda, and more. They're now promoting race events as well throughout the mid and coastal South region at NOLA Motorsports Park and Finish Line Performance Karting in Biloxi, Mississippi. Races are already set for the fall of 2022. September 3rd, October 22nd, and November 12th at NOLA Motorsports Park, and 2 dates, September 10th and October 15th at Finish Line Performance Karting. Driver Line is set to finish this year strong. KC Happy Hour is presented by Precision Performance Karting. PPK is the exclusive South Florida distributor for the American-made Coyote Zenith kart racing chassis. PPK is offering trackside support at all the Cup Kart South Division events, the CKNA majors including the Spring Nats and the Grand Nats, the Sunshine State Karting Challenge, and a number of club events in the Southeast. New here for 2022 and in partnership with Brandon Jarscrack Racing, PPK is also offering full arrive and drive opportunities in the junior, senior, Briggs 206 classes at the popular Stars Championship Series and the GoPro Motorplex Karting Challenge events. The same professionally prepared kart and motor package has propelled Brandon to victories at Winter Nationals and the Monticello Divisional in 2022 are available to you. In addition to the Coyote line of racing chassis, Precision Performance Karting is also a distributor for Odenthal Racing Products, Hilliard Clutches, Vega Tires, and Greyhound Racing Seats. Check out Precision Performance Karting on Facebook and Instagram or email them at ppkartingfl@gmail.com. From 4-stroke to 100cc to 125cc and beyond, Technokart USA has a winning option for you. Based out of Des Plaines, Illinois, Technokart USA offers both chassis designed to win in all divisions of North American karting and a top-level race support program at the U.S. Pro Kart Series, Route 66 Sprint Series, select Cup Karts North America races, and both the Rock Vegas and SCUSA Super Nationals. Podiums, wins, and championships are waiting for you whenever you're ready to get on a Technokart. For more information, follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/TechnokartUSA.
All right, everybody, welcome back here to KC Happy Hour 57 for myself here and Aaron Hackmeister. And Aaron, thank you so much for getting this here. Mike Dittmer joins the show for the very first time. Mike, thank you for joining us here tonight, man. We are so happy to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
So talk to me, man. Aaron, Aaron's a Midwest kid. Aaron hasn't been to the event before. I've never been to the Rock Island Grand Prix. I know you got prepped for it this week, but pitch to both of us. Obviously, we know about the race. What is it like if you were to tell someone that's never been there before, man?
It's such a unique place. So different than just any kind of permanent track. Nobody gets week-long practices leading up to the event. Everybody gets 2 rounds per class and get in and go race. And track's ever changing with the barriers. Guys hitting the barriers, you come around and you might have a little wider turn or a narrower turn, and it's a pretty exciting event.
And so with all that, what brings you back? What are some of the fondest memories you've got from your time here at Racing the Rock all these years? Obviously, you've won it before, so there's no question that's a good one.
Yeah, it's real local to us. We're only 15 minutes from the Rock Island. When I was not old enough to race it yet, my dad took me over there and, watching it, like thinking this is pretty cool, watching like Scott Evans, Alan Rudolph, Todd Bolton, all them guys. Such a unique event. The amount of people that are actually there watching really adds a different element to people that don't know what the race is or what karts are. Really ups the environment.
Yeah, I gotta imagine that's pretty cool, right? It's one of those few races that as a driver, I'm sure you feel like a superstar. You're out on the grid before the main events and through the weekend, you get all these passerbys that kind of ask you about the sport, right? I mean, that's got to feel super awesome.
Yeah, it's real cool. They actually, a few events, they do open up the grid and let some of the fans come out, do autographs and look at the karts without having to buy a pit pass to get in and really check things out. So that really brings the fan involvement in.
And we talk about, the 206 classes. I think that's, without question helped save that event. But, the event's got cool aspects to it. Are there certain parts that you think, would help kind of take it to the next level? Have you ever thought about like ideas of like, man, this race is great, but having a beer around the cooler at the end of the race day, like what we could do to make it better or bigger, anything like that?
Yeah, I actually sit in on the board meetings and that to try and help the event. And, there's all kinds of ideas thrown out. There's ideas of night racing, but, that's a lot of added cost, changing the track layout and nightlife's starting to come back. The district would always have big parties, and they're actually this year got bands for Friday night, Saturday night. I think they might even have bands for Thursday night. Really get the the involvement and the party going on.
Yeah, talk to me about the party's the funniest thing. So there's 2 warm-ups, right? Isn't there 2 rounds of warm-ups Sunday morning for guys that maybe miss out, or is it just that many classes that some guys miss the first class for warm-up because of how hard they end up going Saturday night?
Yeah, Saturday night there's been a few people that either don't make warm-up, or some of them even miss their main for that Sunday because they're still hanging in from the night before. We hang out pretty late at the track. Not too late, not as late as some of the other guys, but it is a big deal. You don't get a lot of track time as far as getting good amount of practice. So you get Saturday morning 2 rounds, get right into heat races. Sunday morning 1 round of warm up, and right into the finals. And pretty much everybody's on the same level playing field there, and really brings out the drivers.
And so what you mentioned track layout, right? The track layout, to my understanding, it's been this. Have you guys like run a chicane before on the layout, or when you're talking changes, are you talking going on to some of the other streets around the area to make it more of a course than where it is?
Before I was actually racing the event, they had a couple chicanes down like the second straightaway with hay bales. But ever since I've been running it, it's been the same layout, no chicanes. The only thing that changes is really how wide they set the barriers to the curbs. Sometimes the track's a little narrower, and it will widen out through the weekend as people hit the barriers and just slowly push them out. But yeah, the track layout itself has been the same since the start of it. They talk about seeing what streets we can use, and essentially it's pretty much been, the best layout that they've been able to come up with so far.
Gotcha. But there's been like kind of, that's like always in the discussion, or at least has been every once in a while, like, hey, could we do something a little different with the layout from what you were saying?
Yeah, the last couple of years they've, input's been to change the track layout, but as far as city streets, as far as the quality of the streets or how much room the streets have, and the improvements that they do for the pedestrians, it really will narrow up the track, so it limits where we're able to run.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, it's so cool. It'd be something that, it's on my list to get to. I was talking with the Bajoso and the Magic guys this weekend. They're getting ready to go run King of the Streets, and I think AJ's going to might run 206 because he just got the entry or the motor with it to go run there too. But all 3 of the big major King of the races, there's King of 206, King of KA, King of the Streets with Shifter. I'd love to get up there next year. This year we have so many other stuff going on. We can't go. I have to go down to Lone Star to Houston, we have the Route 66 race we're streaming, which I don't know how we'd stream around all the buildings. I'd love to figure out a way to get it done for sure. For this event coming into this year, you're involved. Do you know where the entries lie again? I have to imagine the 206 classes are going to be pretty good.
206 is the biggest right now. Last I heard a couple days ago, we were about north of 175 for the entries, which is a little down from last year, but a few other events, like you said, going on the same weekend, tends to hurt all the events, not just one or the other.
Yeah, no, I think everyone's a little bit lighter for sure, and it's I don't think the route one's a little bit down from the last event. The Texas one's a little bit down. It's just tricky, to navigate all that stuff. Aaron is trying to get back in here. Sorry, on a side note, I see you finally made it back in.
Yeah, my power went out as we were getting the good stuff here, and so I pulled up my phone, but I don't really have much of an option right now for how to get into this.
Well, that's one heck of a way, man. I've hit Mike with a good amount of questions. I know he was part of, he was your guest you brought on as well here tonight. So do you have anything you'd love to hit him with? Because, Mike, you've been a great guest. You've covered about every question I can really think of to throw at you on the event. I was already sold and wanting to go, no question. But Aaron, do you got anything for him?
Well, without knowing what you've already asked and stuff like that, what's outside of the race itself? What's the environment like for the spectators and stuff like that? If you've talked about that already, is there anything more you can get into detail with?
Yeah, we were just talking that the nightlife's coming back in the district. and a lot more vendors in the infield of the track to get more spectators out, more of an event or style of or production, whatever you want to call it, to bring more people out to make aware of the race. And
okay, yeah, well, and I think I mentioned this before, but like Xander and I have been trying to push a lot of that, as that's kind of what we need to see in a lot more of karting, is just making it more of an event for people and more people being able to come and see what it is that aren't already in karting and making it more accessible for them. So this is a great example. This race is a great example of stuff like that. And I hope you all the best of luck. I know you just said you were saying you entered a new class stuff now, or added another class, I should say. So it sounds like you got a busy weekend ahead of you.
Yeah, we'll be in 5 now, which is not as many as some of the other guys, but we're going to run 4 206 classes, and my wife and a couple of my friends, I think pressure committed me into running the Yamaha, which they added the class. So Yamaha's always been my thing, and as the Yamaha kind of died out, we got the 206, which is pretty good locally around us and across the country, and been running that, and was lucky enough to win the 2 races in the 206 last year to bring my total to 10. So we always hope to just be in the hunt to be able to add to that total.
And last question I got for you here, Mike, as a guy who's won the event, who's been around for the event in so many ways, you sit in on the board. If there was any way you'd like to see, what would you like to see out of the event, directionally or some way in the coming future, right? What kind of focus, any or just the same, right? But obviously hoping the series don't stay off it. Are you a purist like that, or is there new age ideas you want to see come in?
No, I mean, we're open to quite a bit of things. They've added the KAs. We've gone through the clone, the 206, the flatheads. Adding in the KA VLR classes. They try and keep up with the latest and greatest, but also keeping the same pure. Yamaha 206, the local classes. So many locals come out for this event, that'll only race maybe one other time throughout the year, but they'll come run this event. They keep their cart just for this event. So it's nice to see it grow that way. They are making some changes this year for the King classes. Other than obviously shifter, they're going to do rolling starts instead of the traditional Le Mans style standing starts. So it'll be a different element this year to try something new to see if we can get more people in. They used to just do the pill draw, and wherever your pill was, that's where you started the final, and moved into the heat races. Or they did qualifying, and then they moved into doing the heat races and passing points to get you lined up for the final. So things are always changing to gain interest, versus rather than just, the guys that think that, well, I don't have a chance because I can't qualify up front. They give us the heat races to get those guys that maybe not have a chance to start up front to get a better starting spot, to stay in the draft, to run up front.
And so where do you stand with all that stuff? Are you like, yeah, let's make more changes, or no, this race has always been this way. I've won it this way. I like it this way. Are you just like, it's a race, I'll come in and I'll play?
In one aspect, it's a race. Everybody's on the same playing field. I was always a fan of the qualifying because that was always it's such a big drafting track. So, you get right. 2 or 3 of you guys that you could trust and run well together, and you just push really hard to see how fast a lap you can run. And at the end of the event, like an 8-minute session, who's ever at the top's at the top, and it's a pretty cool aspect that way. The heat races, they're fun to run, but it's a lot of intense moving and that for, not a lot of reward at the end of the day. To me,
it's probably sketchy coming through some of those guys that maybe pill pick, and it could be their first or one of their first ever go-kart races too, right? On a street race, and you don't know their experience level when you're coming through them, right? Because it's all random.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I've been running the Cup Kart series for the last couple of years, and you get, like you said, you get used to guys you race around it all the time, and then you come to an event like this, and guys you've never ran with before, so you follow them for a lap and see where they're running and where you want to make your move and the least amount of risk there.
Well, and so when you're talking rolling starts, right, you're talking for the King of KA and the King of 206 in qualifying, right? And Rod Glenard, one of the shifter guys, thought you meant shifter. You're not talking King of the Streets.
Shifters. No, King of the Street shifter still doing the standard Formula One style start.
Cool.
You know, with all the 206 and the KA classes, they would do the both sides of the street Le Mans style starts. But just for those King classes, they're going to do a rolling start this year.
Sweet. Well, Mike, thanks so much for coming on the show, man. We wish you best of luck this week. 5 classes going to keep you busy. I see you got some helpers in the garage here around. Who's this little guy?
This is Cruz. This is my second kid. So I got Harley, who's 6. You know, they're always out here in the garage with us, and he gets in there whenever he can, can't you? Can you say hi?
Hi.
That's cool, man. I'm sure that's got to be cool too, right? Being able to bring them out to an event like this, and then for them to, you know, see you and share winning with them. Have you you've obviously won recently, right? So they've been able to see you take the top step.
Yeah, they were there last year. We're out there on the track with us, and Cruz here, he likes to check tires and check everybody else's carts out, and winning the King of the Street, and guys I go racing with, they, you know, joke around and they call me the King all the time, which, you know, it's all in good fun, and they've even got him saying it, and so they really enjoy it. Yeah,
they were blowing our comments up, man. Well, congrats, King. Thank you so much for joining us. Wish you best of luck this week, and hopefully Cruz can keep you in check for the weekend on the nightlife.
Yeah, he should. So I appreciate you inviting me on, and hopefully you guys can make it out next year to cover the event.
Absolutely. We'd love to get out there. All right, Mike Dittmer here joining us for the show. Well, let's go ahead through a couple quick questions we had. We had one from Derek Wargo asking if we'll be over at CK&A Grands. Aaron, I don't know if are you planning to tune over at that one? Because that's one, unfortunately, I don't have on my schedule right now. Aaron, you're muted, you knucklehead. There you go.
I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to be doing. Austin Olds, the driver that he's Team 4, is actually mechanically inclined well. I think he can work on his own cart, so they might try to save the money on me and have him work on his own cart for that weekend. I might end up working. I'm probably end up working in some way, but I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm probably going to head out there. It's a 45-minute drive for me, so it's a fun race to go on, at least to watch. I was hoping to race it this year, but things aren't quite working out the way that I needed to. Got to save money, so can't quite get out there this year.
Yeah, and as for KC as a whole, Derek, we were able to go there last year. Super cool race. A huge thanks again to Briggs for bringing us out for that one. I don't have it set right now. I haven't pushed for it to be fair. We've had an unbelievable amount of support from everybody in the industry and from so many people that have helped ask for us to come to certain races that I haven't had to push to get into a lot of places this year. And we filled our schedule really, really well. Whereas that is one of like maybe 4 off weekends we're going to have between now and the Super Nationals. I'm not super motivated to get out of my house again. I've already taken enough flack from Paulie that I look homeless in here, and my roommates behind me, they've been able to fill their desks up. I haven't. I got home yesterday. I'll leave on Thursday for Houston. We come back. I have an off week in the week after, and then we're going, and then I got one off week for the CK&A Grands. I can tell you right now, I'll be watching the broadcast if they bring it back again this year. Shout out to Dave McIntyre, Randy Kugler up in the booth. Those guys do a great job. So I don't think we're going to be there. I will never say never to any go-kart race. I would love to go, but I will probably be the same boat as Aaron, trying to make sure we save up and plan so we can do a really good job in 23 with all the races that we got coming that way. So I don't think that we'll be up there at least this year. A question from let's see, what else do we have? There was one other thing that I think I had on here that I was gonna Justin. I don't know, man. That the floor. I don't even know how Justin noticed that. But the floor is not flat. This is an expansion room in my house. This is probably TMI, but we have it's an older house. It's been renovated, had 2 rooms added on, and this one's like it's not perfectly level. So if I don't move, I'll roll down here and keep rolling until out of frame, so I have to get some stoppers for my chair. But great one otherwise. Let's see. All right. You know what? This is actually a good one. Ryan Aiden Motorsports asking who we got for King of the Streets this year. I don't even have the full entry list, but I think you are absolutely insane if you do not vote for AJ Myers. I think there is – I love Andrew Bajoso. We about ended up going to Atlantic City with him Saturday night over at the Stars race. Ryan Bajoso's back. The Magic guys will be quick. I don't know which other Shifter guys and Shifter Senior are going to be there. Josh Lane's not there this year. His son is going to be there, but I don't know. All right, Race Liberante says Andrew over AJ. So what do you got, Aaron? Which one?
That's pretty much what I was thinking. I was thinking probably like Andrew Bugoso is kind of my go for with it. I think AJ will be fast. I'm guessing be one of those two, but I want to pick Andrew just for the fun of it because we were hanging out at Stars and he was having a good time out there. So I'm gonna pull for him over AJ. Although I think they're both they're gonna 1-2 either way.
Yeah, I think they'll both be quick. I mean, I think the only thing with Andrew is that guy could be clinically insane in another universe, or if he actually went to a doctor. So last year he's hitting barriers and pulling away. I mean, AJ may not want to tear up the go-kart. Andrew, is the go-kart at that point, and he's just going. So that could be that could be the reason that he survives. But I don't know. We'll find out. To Barry Hastings, you could say I'm scared of 500 lawnmower racers. It will probably be 500, But hey, man, I'd go there and I'd be ripping if I could. I don't have enough spare change to go race some big racing yet. We're working on getting there, but I think more than anything, we need to keep working on our product here first. But yeah, we got a busy schedule. We got more races we got to make sure that we do a good job on. And we grow the sport on. And that's a good way to end this episode, I think. So Rock Island, Route 66 here with us live streaming from Chicago. You talk about another venue that is such a super cool racetrack to me. And this kind of goes in favorite track to cover from Bobby No. I think, GoPro is so easy to work at, to like get good coverage at, because the facility is so nice. And I don't think there could have been an easier racetrack for us to put on like our first ever live stream at. The way that our setup all works, going to all these other racetracks is probably trickier. I will say, to Dan's credit, Pittsburgh is by far my favorite layout. But I think GoPro is probably the easiest racetrack we've ever been to live stream. Although if the MCC Cincinnati track gets their media building built that way, with a room kind of built for us, they could beat us there for sure. I know the guys that worked that event for the Route 66 series said it was really, really good. So I think GoPro is the easiest one, if I would say that. Favorite racetrack would have to be Pittsburgh, just on the layout as a driver, but GoPro works really well for coverage. The grid's there, the scale's close, so it's close for interviews on both sides, and it's super cool. But yeah, so I think that's it. Aaron, maybe a good way to wrap up the night. Let's go, guys. We'll see you guys next time.